The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Hello children, hope you all are happy and healthy. Welcome to the biology class. In the previous class, we discussed the working of the heart and we wind up the class with a question. Do you remember the question? Yes, the question was, why does the blood in the vena cava has increased level of carbon dioxide and the blood in the pulmonary vein has the increased level of oxygen? This was the question. With this we entered the previous class. Okay, so today we are going to discuss the answer of this question. Okay, so you all know that from different part of the body blood reaches the heart and from the heart blood pumps to various parts of the body, isn't it? So when this process takes place, the blood passes through the chambers of the heart twice. That means 2 times the blood circulates or the blood flows through the chambers of the heart. So the blood circulation in man is known as double circulation, which means twice the blood flows through the chambers of the heart when the blood from the heart pumps to different part of the body and from the different part of the body the blood carries to the heart. When in between these two processes the blood flows twice through the chambers of the heart. That is why in human being the blood circulation is known as double circulation. Okay, so let us see what are the 2 types of circulation present in the double circulation. They are systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. Systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. Okay, so let us study systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation with the help of the smart class. Okay, so first I am going to discuss the pulmonary circulation. After that I will discuss the systemic circulation. Okay. So the pulmonary circulation begins from the right ventricle. This is right ventricle and it ends in the left atrium. Okay, pulmonary circulation begins from the right ventricle and ends in the left atrium. So from the right ventricle the deoxygenated blood flows to the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary artery carries blood to the lungs and from the lungs the oxygenated blood is carried by the pulmonary vein to the left atrium. Okay, so you know that from different part of the body the vena cava carries blood to the right atrium and from the right atrium blood flows to the right ventricle. Okay, when the tricuspid valve open the blood from the right atrium flows to the right ventricle and from the right ventricle. So in the pulmonary circulation, you know that the blood that brings vena cava to the heart is deoxygenated blood. So this blood has to become oxygenated, so that from the right ventricle the pulmonary artery carries the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So the oxygenation, that process is taking place in the lungs. Okay, so when the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs, there the gaseous exchange takes place. That is, from the blood the carbon dioxide diffuses into the lungs, and from the lungs the oxygen diffuses into the blood. Understood? And this oxygenated blood is bring back to the heart by the pulmonary vein. Clear all of you? അതായത് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ റൈറ്റ് വെൻട്രിക്കിളിലുള്ളത് ഡിയോക്സിനേറ്റഡ് ബ്ലഡ് ആണ് അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ റൈറ്റ് വെൻട്രിക്കിളിൽ നിന്ന് പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറി അത് കോൺട്രാക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറിയിലേക്കാണ് ബ്ലഡ് പമ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് അല്ലേ. ഈ പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറി ഈ ഡിയോക്സിനേറ്റഡ് ബ്ലഡിനെ ലങ്സിലേക്കാണ് കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്നത്. റൈറ്റ് പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറി ഉണ്ട്, ലെഫ്റ്റ് പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറി ഉണ്ട്, നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചതാണ്. അത് ലങ്സിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോകും. അപ്പോൾ ലങ്സിൽ പോയിട്ടാണ് ഈ ഓക്സിജനേഷൻ നടക്കുന്നത്. അതായത് പ്യൂരിഫിക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അവിടെ ബ്ലഡ് ഓക്സിജനേറ്റഡ് ആവുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ പൾമണറി ആർട്ടറിയിലൂടെ ലങ്സിലെത്തുന്ന ബ്ലഡിൽ കാർബൺ ഡൈ ഓക്സൈഡ് കൂടുതലാവും. അപ്പോൾ ആ ബ്ലഡിൽ നിന്നും കാർബൺ ഡൈ ഓക്സൈഡ് ലങ്സിലേക്ക് ഡിഫ്യൂസ് ചെയ്ത്, ലങ്സിലാണെങ്കിൽ നിറയെ ഓക്സിജൻ ഉണ്ടാവും, ഇൻഹലേഷൻ നടക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് നിറയെ ഓക്സിജൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. ആ ഓക്സിജൻ ബ്ലഡിലേക്ക് ഡിഫ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യും, ഒരു എക്സ്ചേഞ്ച് അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും. മനസ്സിലായോ? എന്നിട്ട് ഈ ഓക്സിജനേറ്റഡ് ബ്ലഡാണ് തിരിച്ച് ലങ്സിൽ നിന്നും പൾമണറി വെയിൻ ലെഫ്റ്റ് ഏട്രിയത്തിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ഒരു സർക്കുലേഷനെയാണ് പൾമണറി സർക്കുലേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയാം. ഓക്കെ, സോ ത്രൂ പൾമണറി സർക്കുലേഷൻ ദ ബ്ലഡ് ഗെറ്റ്സ് ഓക്സിജനേറ്റഡ്. ബ്ലഡിന് അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഓക്സിജൻ റിച്ച് ആയിട്ട് മാറുന്നത്. പൾമണറി സർക്കുലേഷനിലൂടെയാണ് ബ്ലഡ് ഓക്സിജൻ റിച്ച് ആയിട്ട് മാറുന്നത്. Clear? So pulmonary circulation, it begins from the right ventricle, and from the right ventricle the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs, and from the lungs the oxygenated blood is carried by the pulmonary vein to the left atrium. Clear? Okay. Now we will move on to the systemic circulation. Okay. Now you can see here the blood. The pulmonary veins bring oxygenated blood to the left atrium, and from the left atrium the blood flows to the left ventricle. Okay, and from the left ventricle when it contracts, the blood pumps to the aorta. Okay, so systemic you can see it here. See, from the left ventricle blood pumps to the aorta. Once again you can see here systemic circulation. Okay, the systemic circulation begins from the left ventricle and ends in the right atrium. Okay, so from the left ventricle the oxygen rich, nutrient rich blood pumps to the aorta, and from the aorta the blood flows to the arteries, and the arteries carry blood to the different part of the body, that is to the tissues in different part of the body, and the tissues receive oxygen and nutrients from the blood, and from the tissues the carbon dioxide diffuses into the blood, and this carbon dioxide rich blood is again carried by the veins, and the veins carry blood to the vena cava, and finally the vena cava carries blood to the heart, that is to the right atrium. So the systemic circulation, it begins from the left ventricle and ends in the right atrium, and this is the longest circulation. That is from the left ventricle the blood pumps to the aorta, and from the aorta to different arteries, and these arteries carry blood to different part of the body, and from different part of the body, that is from the tissues they receive oxygen and nutrients from the blood and release carbon dioxide to the blood, and this carbon dioxide rich blood is carried by the veins to the vena cava, and vena cava finally carries blood to the right atrium. Okay, so you know that pulmonary circulation is between the heart and the lungs. It is the shortest circulation, and through that circulation the blood gets oxygenated, and through systemic circulation the tissues in our body gets nourishment and oxygen. That is the advantage of systemic circulation, and also the body tissues and the cells are able to eliminate the waste products in the cells with the help of systemic circulation. Understood? So, this is the double circulation. That means once the circulation completes, the blood passes through the chambers of the heart twice. That means blood flows 2 times through the chambers of the heart. That is, one is the pulmonary circulation and the second one is the systemic circulation. Okay, so a flow chart is given there in the textbook. So fill that flow chart and study well this part. Okay, this is very important. Okay, hope you have understood. Now we are going to discuss how do the simple nutrients which are absorbed into the blood from the small intestine reach the heart. Okay, do you know how the simple nutrients reach the heart? Just now we learned about the double circulation. Okay, so in the double circulation what we learned, from the heart the blood pumps to different part of the body as well as to the lungs, isn't it? So how do the nutrients which are absorbed into the blood from the small intestine reach the heart? We have to know that, isn't it? Okay, so this is taking place with the help of another circulation known as portal circulation. Okay, so in portal circulation the portal veins are included, and you know that in generally the veins carry blood from different part of the body to the heart, but all veins do not reach the heart and they carry blood from organ to organ. Understood? And these veins which carry blood from organ to organ are known as the portal veins, and they do not reach the heart. Okay, and their structural peculiarity is they begin from one organ as capillaries and they end in another organ as capillaries. അതായത് ഒരു ഓർഗനിൽ നിന്ന് ഈ ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് പോർട്ടൽ വെയിൻസ് അത് ബിഗിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത് കാപ്പിലറീസ് ആയിട്ടായിരിക്കും. എന്നിട്ട് ഈ കാപ്പിലറീസ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് ആ വെയിനായിട്ട് മാറുക. പിന്നെ ഇതൊരു വേറൊരു ഓർഗനിൽ ചെന്നിട്ടാണ് ഈ ഒരു സർക്കുലേഷൻ അവസാനിക്കുക അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ അത് ആ ഓർഗനിലേക്ക് എത്തുന്ന സമയത്ത് വീണ്ടും സ്പ്ലിറ്റായിട്ട് കാപ്പിലറീസ് ആയിട്ട് മാറും. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദ പോർട്ടൽ വെയിൻസ് ദേ ബിഗിൻ from one organ as capillaries and they end in another organ as capillaries. Okay, so these are the peculiarities of portal veins. So portal veins are included in the portal circulation or portal system. Okay, so the two important things about portal veins are, one, they carry blood from one organ to another organ or from organ to organ and they do not reach the heart. Then they begin as capillaries from one organ and end as capillaries in another organ. Clear? Okay, so here we are going to learn about hepatic portal circulation. It is one example of portal circulation. Okay, so here we are going to learn about hepatic portal circulation, because with the help of hepatic portal circulation the simple nutrients which are absorbed into the blood from the intestine reach the heart. Okay, so portal circulation is between two organs, right? So here the hepatic portal circulation takes place between the intestine and the liver. Okay, so let us see how does it take place. So from the intestine, I told you the portal veins include in the hepatic portal system are hepatic portal veins. Okay, so the hepatic portal veins, it begins as capillaries from the small intestine or from the intestine, and they unite together to form hepatic portal vein. Okay, so the hepatic portal vein carries nutrient rich blood from the intestine to the liver, and when the hepatic portal vein reaches the liver, it splits into capillaries. Okay, and the blood that reaches the liver contains nutrients, isn't it? Their concentration will be high in the blood. Okay, so the simple nutrients that reach the liver will undergo certain changes, because liver is the center of metabolism. That is, all metabolic processes are taking place in the liver, and we can call the liver as the chemical laboratory of human body. Okay, so that much purification processes are taking place in the liver. Okay, so let us see what are the changes takes place. What are the changes, the simple nutrients that undergo in the liver? One is the glucose. The excess glucose in the blood will be converted into glycogen, and this glycogen will be stored in the liver. And whenever our body requires glucose, the glycogen will be converted back into glucose. Okay, the next change is the energy from the fatty acid will be released in the liver, and the production of cholesterol also takes place in the liver. So these are some of the changes that takes place in the liver. Okay, so after this, the blood is carried by the hepatic vein to the vena cava, and the vena cava carries this nutrient rich blood to the heart, that is to the right atrium. Okay, so this is the hepatic portal circulation. So hepatic portal circulation takes place between the intestine and the liver. Okay, അപ്പോൾ ഇൻറ്റസ്റ്റൈനിൽ നിന്ന് ലിവറിലേക്ക് ബ്ലഡ് കൊണ്ടുപോവുക, അതാണ് ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് പോർട്ടൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് പോർട്ടൽ സർക്കുലേഷൻ്റെ ഫങ്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. പിന്നെ തിരിച്ച് ലിവറിൽ നിന്നും ബ്ലഡ് വീന കേവിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുന്നത് ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് വെയിനാണ്. Okay, so this is how the simple nutrients which are absorbed from the intestine to the blood reach the heart. Understood all of you? Okay, so a flow chart is given there in the textbook. You have to study that, you have to write it in the file. It is very, very important. Okay, if you have any doubt in the portal circulation as well as double circulation, you have to call me and clarify your doubts. Hope you have understood the role of heart in transporting or supplying nutrients to different part of the body. It is the rhythmic heartbeat, the functioning of the heart is made possible. Okay, so now we are going to learn about heartbeat, pulse and blood pressure. Okay, so first we will discuss heartbeat. So you know that the heart contracts and relaxes, isn't it? So the contraction of heart or the contraction of the chambers of the heart is known as systole, and in this phase, that is during systole, what happens in the heart? The blood from the atria flows to the ventricles, and from the ventricles the blood pumps outside, that is from the ventricles the blood pumps to pulmonary artery and aorta. Clear? And subsequently along with the atria the ventricles relaxes, അതായത് atriaന്ന് blood ventriclesലേക്ക് വന്ന് തിരിച്ച് വെൻട്രിക്കിൾസ് കോൺട്രാക്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ബ്ലഡ് പമ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയം കൊണ്ട് ഏട്രിയ റിലാക്സ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാവും അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ ഏട്രിയയുടെ ഒപ്പം തന്നെ വെൻട്രിക്കിൾസും അവിടെ റിലാക്സ് ചെയ്യും. ആൻഡ് ദിസ് റിലാക്സേഷൻ സ്റ്റേജ് ഓഫ് ദ ചേമ്പേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് ദ ഹാർട്ട് ഈസ് നോൺ ആസ് ഡയസ്റ്റോൾ. Okay, so contraction of the heart is known as systole and relaxation of the chambers of the heart is known as diastole, and during diastole the heart chambers get filled with the blood. Okay, now let us see the systole and diastole. So the contraction of the heart muscles or chambers is called systole and the relaxation is called diastole. Okay. One systole and a subsequent diastole together known as one heartbeat and it takes 0.8 seconds. So അതായത് ഒരു സിസ്റ്റോളും അതിനുശേഷം വരുന്ന ഡയസ്റ്റോളും കൂടി ചേർന്നതാണ് ഒരു ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ടേക്സ് 0.8 സെക്കൻഡ്സ്. ക്ലിയർ? ഓക്കെ. നോർമലി ദ ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ്സ് അറ്റ് എ റേറ്റ് ഓഫ് 72 ടൈംസ് പെർ മിനിറ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റിനുള്ള ടൈമാണ് ഈ 0.8 സെക്കൻഡ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇൻ 1 മിനിറ്റ് ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ്സ് 72 ടൈംസ്. ക്ലിയർ ഓൾ ഓഫ് യു? ഓക്കെ. ആൻഡ് during the contraction relaxation of the heart, a wave-like movement is formed due to the contraction and relaxation of the heart throughout the walls of the arteries and this is known as pulse. And the rate of pulse is equivalent to the rate of heartbeat, that is 72 times. There are pulse points in our body and one such pulse point is the wrist and when you touch this particular point in the wrist you can feel the pulse. Okay. So if you are in the class definitely I will be asking you to check the pulse of your friends. Okay. So now it is not possible. So you can do one thing, you can check the pulse of your parents or your brothers or sisters. Okay. Just with the help of a stopwatch find out in 1 minute how many times the pulse you get the pulse. Okay. So definitely that will be 72 times. Okay. So I told you the pulse rate is equivalent to the heartbeat. And what are the other pulse points in our body? Both sides of the forehead. ഇവിടെ ടച്ച് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പൾസ് അറിയാൻ പറ്റും. നെക്കിൽ തൊട്ടാൽ അറിയാൻ പറ്റും. പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ലെഗിലെ ആങ്കിളിൽ ടച്ച് ചെയ്താൽ നമുക്ക് പൾസ് നമുക്കറിയാൻ പറ്റും. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദ ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് പൾസ് പോയിൻറ്റ്സ് ഇൻ അവർ ബോഡി. ഓക്കെ. ആൻഡ് ഹൗ ഡു വി ചെക്ക് ദ ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ് വെൻ വി കൺസൾട്ട് എ ഡോക്ടർ ഫോർ എനി ഡിസീസ്? ഹൗ ദ ഡോക്ടർ വിൽ ചെക്ക് us first? What the doctor will check first? He will check the heartbeat. With which device? With the stethoscope, the doctor will check the heartbeat, isn't it? So stethoscope is used to check the heartbeat. So what is the relation between this heartbeat and pulse rate? See, in the school times, after the PT period, have you noticed your heart will beat very fast? Have you noticed it? And if you check your pulse that time, definitely the rate of pulse also will be higher. What may be the reason behind it? See, when you play games or when you do exercise, your body needs more energy, right? So for producing more energy, the cells require more oxygen. So in order to supply more oxygen, the heart has to beat fast. മനസ്സിലായോ? അപ്പോൾ കൂടുതൽ ഓക്സിജൻ സപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഹാർട്ട് കൂടുതൽ വേഗതയോട് കൂടിയിട്ട് ബീറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പോൾ ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ് കൂടും. ഹാർട്ട് ബീറ്റ് കൂടുന്നതിനനുസരിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ പൾസ് റേറ്റും കൂടും. ഇനി കുറച്ച് നേരം നിങ്ങൾ റെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തതിന് ശേഷം നോക്കിയാലോ, ഡെഫിനറ്റ്ലി the heartbeat will become the normal and along with that the pulse rate also will become normal, that is 72 times per minute. Okay, clear? So heartbeat എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? One systole and a subsequent diastole together constitute a heartbeat or a cardiac cycle. And normally the heart beats 72 times per minute. To complete one heartbeat, 0.8 seconds required. Okay. And what is pulse? A wave-like movement is formed when the contraction and relaxation of the heart that felt throughout the walls of the arteries, and that is pulse, and pulse is equivalent, the rate of pulse is equivalent to the rate of heartbeat. Okay, clear? Now we will move on to the blood pressure. About 70 ml of blood pumped into the arteries every time when the heart contracts, and this excess blood exerts pressure on the walls of the arteries, and this pressure is known as systolic pressure. And systolic pressure is 120 mmHg. When the heart dilates fully, that is when the heart relaxes fully, the same amount of blood enters the heart, and a low pressure felt in the arteries in this stage, and this low pressure is known as diastolic pressure, and this is 80 mmHg. So the normal blood pressure of an individual is stated in terms of these pressures, that is in terms of systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. So the normal blood pressure of a person is 120 mmHg, and it always state in terms of millimeter mercury, that is mmHg. Clear? And the blood pressure of a person is measured by the device sphygmomanometer. Digital sphygmomanometer or BP apparatus is also available nowadays. Okay, and the prescribed rate of or a desired rate of blood pressure is 120/80 mmHg. Okay, so sometimes there will be variations in the blood pressure. So a condition in which the rate of blood pressure increases above the normal blood pressure is a condition of disease known as hypertension, and this is caused due to certain unhealthy habits like usage of excess fat and salt, smoking, and lack of exercise. These are some of the reasons behind the hypertension. Condition in which the blood pressure level goes below the prescribed rate is called the hypotension. If the blood pressure is not regulated, hypertension as well as hypotension will lead to stroke and heart attack. Okay, so we have to be very careful to regulate the blood pressure. So how does hypertension affect our body? See, when the blood pressure goes up, there are chances to break the small blood capillaries in our body, and that will lead to internal hemorrhage. Okay, and if this happens in the capillaries that supplies blood to the brain, that will lead to cerebral hemorrhage. Sometimes a person may die due to these hemorrhages. Understood? And that also leads to stroke. പക്ഷാഘാതം എന്ന് മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയും. ഏതെങ്കിലും if it happens in the right side of the brain, that will affect the left side, and if it happens in the left side of the brain, the right side of the person will be paralyzed. That is stroke. And hypotension വന്നാലോ blood pumping കുറയും അല്ലേ? So the cells will not get enough oxygen, and if the sufficient oxygen is not reaching the heart, what will happen? And that will lead to cardiac arrest, that is heart attack. Okay, so it is very important to regulate the blood pressure. So in order to regulate it, we have to follow healthy food habits. We have to avoid excess fat, excess salt from the food, and we have to do regular exercise. Many things are there that we will study in the next session. Okay, so now let us watch a small video of this blood pressure. See, the systolic pressure occurs when arteries receive blood from ventricles. You can see here when the ventricles contracts, the blood pumps to the pulmonary artery and aorta. 70 ml of blood pumps to the arteries and aorta. You can see here the stretched arterial wall, that is in order to pump more blood, and this blood exert pressure on the walls of the artery, that is systolic pressure. And diastolic pressure occurs when the arteries do not receive blood from the ventricles. Arteries do not receive blood, but the heart chambers, the atria will get filled with the blood during diastolic pressure. Okay, and now let us see how to check the blood pressure. You can see here. This is sphygmomanometer, and we can see how the blood pressure checked with the help of sphygmomanometer. Let us see. These are the parts: cuff, then air pump, mercury column. These are the parts of sphygmomanometer. ഇതൊന്നും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പഠിക്കാനില്ല, പക്ഷെ നിങ്ങൾ ജസ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് കണ്ടോളൂ, അതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് കേട്ടോ. It is expressed in millimeters of mercury. Okay, this is systolic pressure. It is always 120, and this is diastolic pressure, and it is always 80, 120, 80 mm Hg. This is how the blood pressure checked with the help of sphygmomanometer. So with this, I am winding up this class. So today we have discussed many concepts. Hope you have all understood the concepts, and if you have any doubt in any topic, call me and clarify your doubts. Okay, and see, write all the flowcharts in the file. It is very important, and study well. Then see you in the next class. Have a nice day.